Hey guys, how's it going? This is a snowblower I picked up during the and going into the fall. It was free on the side of the road. I know I shot a clip of it getting it, and it was this and I think it was a John Deere riding mower was also with it. So I grabbed both of them. Both of them have sat out in the weather and have definitely had some use to them. Again, they were free. The owner did come out. I forgot what he said was wrong with them on both of them, but I guess that's what we're here to go figure out. So our job is to try to resurrect this thing and or figure out what happened to it. So without further ado, let's get doing some wrenching. So it's the Simplicity 1226, 26 inch being the width of the cut, and 12 is probably the horsepower or close to it. Definitely is on the older side. You can tell by the paint lifting off of it, and without a light we can't see too much in there. It's running a Briggs engine. It's got electric start. It's got the remotes for the chute to change the angle and to rotate it left and right. That might all be done by one. Not sure. Let's see what we got. I don't know what year it is yet neither. It's kind of looking like, I don't know, maybe 20 years old. Something along those lines. It's a decent one as far as machines go. Again, it's on the larger horsepower side of things. Yeah, 1150, so 11.5 horsepower engine on that. All right, let's go start looking into, we'll start with the engine probably first. Just kind of give it a quick assessment, see what we got. Is there any fuel in it? I do see fuel in it. Let's go see if we have any oil in it. Then we'll give a tug on the cord there and kind of see if it turns over. I would suspect it does. I probably wouldn't have taken it if it didn't. Dirty with some in there. All right, it looks like it's bleeding some oil out from around the base of it too. Let's get some covers off of it. We'll get this cover off, and there's a belly pan underneath, and it shows like the drive part of it, the transmission part of it. We'll kind of give a quick assessment on those. Let's get it up in the air first. Both tires are flat. Let's go throw some air in them and see if they stay while we're working on it. Do the same to the other side. They get like 10 pounds. So I believe we have one on this side for this cover and possibly two on the other. Let's get that off there. Definitely a lot of belt dust hanging out. So this one drives, the front one drives the auger, and the back one drives the wheels. And the back one usually doesn't see much stress. Again, it's kind of just driving the wheels, but the front one can get pretty burned out. I'm also looking to see if this pulley, there's a bushing inside here that wears out, and I'm looking down there and I'm looking to see if that bottom pulley lifts up and down, and it does not, so that's good. All right, let's go get the belly pan off. Look, it's already hanging halfway off too. Somebody's already either not put it on right. It's got two screws, one on each side of that, and that pan should be able to drop down out of our way. I've got the front two out, and I ran a strap to the ceiling to hold the ass end up in the air. All right, what's going on? That's loose, that's why. I also see, I'll show you in a minute, up top, one of the bolts are backed out of the engine. Now, a lot of times these are just, you don't even have to take them all the way out. They're keyed. Let's see if that's the case. All right, let's go take a peek on the underside of it. They have what's called a drive disc. I'll show you. So the transmission is essentially variable speed, but it does have detents, and you can kind of see where the rubber has been dissipated on each section of that disc. Generally that's pretty clean, and it has a rubber drive disc up here. has a tendency to burn out over time, especially if people abuse them. And abusing, what I mean is, like, if you're in a heavy snowbank and you have it in like fourth gear instead of first gear. So this is like fourth gear that's running really fast, and this is, you know, first gear really close to the center. And what happens is you'll run it in a heavy snowbank in the front of the driveway, and you're slipping, and when it slips, it deposits the rubber on there like you see there. You're actually kind of like slipping a clutch. Chain looks pretty good. I don't see anything standing out right away under here. That's terrible. The bushings are gone in the axle. There's plastic bushings, if you can see right there. See the top of that? I'll lift up on that axle. See the plate that's in there? And I would suspect the other side is possibly the same way. Let's go see. Yeah. So this thing definitely has some hours on it. And what that can affect is just the drive of that chain. Sometimes what you could do too is, if you don't have them, you can just take those bushings and spin them around so that the play is on the bottom side of them. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. And nothing terribly standing out. You know, that disc, probably, it depends. When you put it back together and you'll put it in like second gear and you just try to pull and see if the wheels will spin. The axles have definitely never, the wheels have definitely never been off. That could be an issue. What they have is two-wheel drive and one-wheel drive. If you're doing like a lot of straight driveways, you leave it in two-wheel drive, which it's in right now. And one-wheel drive would take this pin out, and you would take this pin and put it in this location here, and this wheel here can freewheel, and then the other one is just the drive wheel. And if you're making like a lot of turns, it makes it so the machine turns easier. We got oil piston out. It looks like possibly just kind of ran down from the fill. I'll show you where that bolt is hanging out. Right there, that bolt's backed off for some reason. I don't know what's going on there. That belt's got some cracks in it. It's drive belts too on a snowblower. I think they do it on purpose. There won't be like a 34-inch belt, a 33-inch belt. It'll be 33 and 3/16. So you can't just take a regular belt for the most part. You have to go buy the one that they try to sell for the machine. That's true with both belts too. All right, let's go let it back down. Let's go start looking into the engine. Actually, let's do a little quick more walk around. So these are called shoes or skids. And if you look at that one, you could see it's worn right through. That's how many hours are on it also. But with these, you could take them and flip them around the other direction. You can see the side's never been used yet. But a lot of times when people do that, it has a tendency to burn out the back of the bucket. There's a cutting edge. You see those bolts going across? There's a cutting edge inside right there. I generally, if you have a gravel or dirt driveway, you'd want to leave about a 1/2-inch gap. You'd set these shoes up over here so they have about a 1/2-inch gap so they're not touching and you're not scooping up the gravel. But if you have a paved driveway, you kind of let it rub right on there. There's a gearbox in the center, which is that right there. These have a tendency, there's like a worm gear in there. They have a tendency to blow. Usually you can kind of tell if I'm just checking to see, like, that's the distance that's able to move before that's moving the gear inside. I'm not calling it bad, but just to be suspect on that, we'll kind of keep an eye on that. That seems like a little on the excessive side. The rest of it doesn't look too beat. I don't see, big bends on any of the parts of the auger. A lot of times you'll, hit a piece of wood or kid's toy, dog toy, and they get chewed up. And that also take out the center there. They have what's called shear pins in them. That's one right there. And there should be another one there. And those are like forgiveness factors. If you do hit something, this pin will break and the axle in the center of it will keep driving. So it keeps you from blowing out that gearbox. That one's nice though. It's a cast iron box. It's an aluminum. Does look like it's pissing some fluid out though. All right, go look at the engine. Let's go double check that oil level. Make sure there's something in it. And what we'll do is we'll pull it over. Yeah. Let's go pull it over and we'll listen to it. Feel it. Looks like it's got compression. Good. Let's go check out the electric starter. We'll go plug an extension cord into that and we'll give that a spin. Notice this one doesn't have a throttle. It's just fixed. I don't know if we're gonna get this in there. Get in there, Fatso. Come on. You think any good? Yep. All right. Let's start getting into fixing its woes, which is probably going to be the fuel system. No matter what, we got to kind of look into that anyhow. So let's get some of these covers out of our way. There's a float ball right down under here we want to get access to. So it looks like a lot of times these, they strip out on us. Like this whole assembly's kind of busted off. Is that what that bolt was holding? Yeah. Somebody's been here before us. Let's looks like the bracket probably broke right inside there. All right, let's go get some tools. Let's get this off of here. Probably has a screw down the center of it. And we'll get this cover out of here. Let's go with that lower cover first. Oh yeah. Well, in a bit. That's never been off. There's any more for that one. Any mouse nest? Nope. And let's get these. This may just pop right off of here. Maybe not. Let me take a peek underneath. There's no screw in the center of it. You might have like little quick connects, like quick tabs on it. Quick for going on, not for coming off. Let's work on getting that cover off. This has a tendency, I have a good idea what's going to happen. The post is going to come out of the cap. Let's not condemn it yet though. Go see. That one actually came out. It wants to live. Yeah, usually that'll rip out inside the post there. Let's get this bracket off of here, and possibly this assembly can come up out of the way with it and its linkage down below. Halfway there. And take a peek behind the curtain. Well, that part comes out easy. There's a broken bracket that we have to deal with. So there's a long plastic stem going down to the choke, and I don't see where it comes off on the other end. Let's see if we can go back to getting the walls of this to kind of release. You know, there's like an easy way to do it, and it's not doing it. Looks like it's actually got like maybe 4 tabs. Going for it. Come on. Get away if you come off. I'll show you the back side of it, what I'm talking about. There's the stem. I'm trying to figure out how to get that to release without breaking that plastic stem off of there. I'm going to work on that top. I don't know if I'll be able to get you in there to see what I'm doing. Can you see the outer edges? Look, it's in focus. But the outer edges look like it snaps over that centerpiece. I wonder if I can get a little tiny socket down the center there to push them all out evenly at the same time. It's off now. If you have a wire going to that kill, that right there is just so if you walk away without that in there, it's not supposed to start. There we go. Carb definitely needs some love. The primer bulb was rotted off. That goes right there on the carb. That gives a little shot of fuel when you're ready to go. Let's go, let's go drop that float bowl on it. Is it got to shut off for the fuel? I do not see one. All right, we'll pinch off that fuel line and we'll drop that float bowl. See what we got going on in there. Yeah, get that a little. Yeah, see if we can get a urine sample out of it. That's the right size. Nope. I know that one. Let that piss for a second. Think that's gas or water? What's your bet? My guess is a little bit of both. See what that main jet looks like when it comes out. Yeah, it's got a bunch of crap in it. Let's get the bowl off of it. You're gonna be one of them. Well, not. I've seen worse. So there's that. Let's turn the fuel back on. I'm gonna let that piss a little bit. I want to see what we got for fuel. If it's fuel, if it's water. Water's heavier than the fuel, so it goes to the bottom of the tank. That should kind of be the first thing out of it. All right. We'll let that set up. Deeper. We'll let that set up in the cup and we'll see if water separates out of it. Onward, let's get the plug out of it. Come on. And then we'll see if it has any spark. Should I jinx myself? I'll say it. No, regret it. Generally, snowblowers, it seems like I really don't have too much of a problem with them not having spark. Again, now that I said it. The kill switch, the wire's unplugged, so it shouldn't make any difference. I'm talking about this right here. That won't make any difference. When you close that path, if you were to jump those two wires together, then it won't go. Plug looks kinda, definitely carbony. Looks like it's definitely been running with a choke on it. It looks like. I may have had some run issues. Let's go throw that back on the plug wire. Where'd it go? And there's an on-off switch. So let's turn that light off. You think, arc it off the carburetor? Let's try it right there. Let's turn that light off. There's an on-off switch over here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's go put that on, and we'll see if we have any spark. Yes, we do. I don't know if you guys are able to see it from there. Good. Let's go see what our fuel system is doing here. Sounds like somebody's getting ready for, we're supposed to get a snowstorm coming up tonight into tomorrow, I think, or tomorrow. Be good, because we're putting a snowblower together. It's enough snow. It's cloudy. I think that'll probably separate out. You can kind of, I don't know if it's showing up. Got a cloudy look to it. So we'll clean that and that. I don't know if I want to pull that carb off of there. And let's go take a quick peek underneath. We probably should. Yeah. And let's get that out of our way. So we're going to go take those two screws out. This is a spark arrestor. Snowblowers don't run air cleaners. Basically, they're run in a clean environment, so there's really no real need for an air cleaner. That, and if you run like a paper air cleaner, if they get wet, they just freeze up and turn into a solid block, and it chokes itself out. So let's go see if that the throttle moves. It does, and the choke is doing what it should be. All right, let's get those off of there. We want to get the fuel out of it anyway, so we'll get that fuel line off of there, and we'll let the tank piss what's in it out. We can get to that fuel line a little bit better. There's a tendency to see what that white plastic elbow is there? They're kind of fragile. Ask me how I know. I have hose pliers that kind of help, but sometimes you're better off just taking a razor blade, slicing them. Let me get the clamp out of the way first. There you go. The hose clamps are just clamps that are meant to go around it. It gives you a better chance of supporting it. We'll give it a shot. And I also know when to say when. It's got a blade and slice it. Yeah, it's a good sized machine for pretty much, it can tackle whatever you throw at it. I say basically, you know, unless you don't get that much snow or you don't have that much area, but generally 8 horsepower and greater. The width isn't that important. Let's get that up out of our way. We got enough on the fuel line, I believe, so we can just kind of slice it back if we don't replace it. We also got what's left of that. That's the primer. When you push that little bulb that was on the outside cover, it pushes air down into here, pressurizes the float bowl, and squirts fuel, raw fuel, into the center of it, just to help start it when it's really cold. Alright, so we should have 2 more screws back behind it back here, and there's 1 linkage rod up top. Once we get those 2 screws out, we could turn the carburetor up and get the linkage off of it. I think they're 10 millimeter, but a lot of times you can't get a socket in there. There we go. Fortunately, carburetors for snowblowers, like the like a Briggs and a Tecumseh, one of the Tecumseh, they're fairly cheap. I haven't bought, like last time I bought them, like, I would usually buy, like, I go on eBay, I buy like, you know, 4 at a time. I may even have one upstairs. And I want to say that 25 bucks a piece. Well, they were. Who knows what they are now, right? That one's gummy. We're going to strip this down. And I have a ultrasonic cleaner with carburetor cleaner in it. See if that took any threads with it, had that feeling to it. Just corrosion, maybe a little threads. Alright, so now we should be able to wiggle this out of there. And I know all the stuff's in the way, but we should be able to angle this and unhook it from the throttle. And then it also has, it's a little tiny spring along with it. So there's that, and there's a little spring, there it goes, that goes in the other hole. So we got both of those off of there. The float already fell off, which means the pin fell out of it, and I lost the needle. I'm gonna go look for those components in there. Since we got that carburetor off, see a little suspect of the fact that we may have mouse nest. Go figure, right? Possibly in there, and it's an air-cooled engine, so you definitely want to make sure that that is not left behind, because if you allow it to overheat, it will cook itself. Let's quickly take the pull start cover off of it. It may have been all of it right there, but I just want to double check. So we need to get this little plate off of here, and we probably have about 3 or 4 screws going around the perimeter, and hopefully there's enough room for that pull start to come away. And one more hiding. I think it's up behind there. Might be only 3. Let's give it a wiggle. Yeah, just the there's a capture up in here. Come on in. Any mice running? Actually looks pretty clean. You know, if we didn't pull it apart, it would have been more. Let's take a peek. Up around that power wire, looking right there. There's a goober of it. I don't see any wires chewed. That's a good sign. All right. Let's get the fuel draining out of it. Yeah, let's let it rip. Thought about taking the tank off, but let's go open the. Will that just hang for us? You feel secure? Let that piss out. Oh, look. Doesn't look too bad. Again, we see water kind of separates in the bottom. Let's go look at the cup. I'm not seeing any signs of it. You'll see if there's water, you rotate it back and forth right where that jet is sitting. There'll be like it'll almost look like a bubble, but it's water sitting on the bottom, floating back and forth. So this has a every carburetor has what's called a needle and seat, and so this is the needle, and sometimes the tip of the needle has the lack of a better word, the rubber sealing part of it, and sometimes the base of the carburetor, which is down inside there, has it. This one has it down in the center of it. So soaking it for too long will take that seal out. It will also take out this bowl gasket that we're trying to screw with right now. I don't know if that's going to want to play well with us. I don't know if I have a carb kit for this either, but if I was to leave this in there, this will swell to the point where it's unusable. It's already cracked, so we have to go hunt. I know I have them for the Tecumseh carburetors. I don't know if I have anything for the Briggs as far as these seals, so let's just be a little on the gingerly side. Too late, right? You already broke it. Let's see if we can get that to separate. Break the seal all the way around. There we go. Worst case, we'll piece that back together if we have to. Alright. And so down in the center, let me get some light on there. Down in the center of it, there is a main jet and an idle jet. Get you a bit of light on it. You see, like, there's two posts. the light behind you. Does that work? There you go. There is 2 posts down in the center, 2 brass tubes. Large one's the main jet, that's where most of the fuel goes through, and then when it goes to an idle, it has that little one on the side. More times than not, that little one's the one that gets clogged, and what happens when it does that is it'll hunt. It'll hunt either if you're trying to idle the machine. Again, this one doesn't have a throttle on it, so it's just meant to run at a certain RPM. But even with that, like if there's no load on it, let's see where the throttle is. So that's the throttle. That's wide open throttle, and that's, you know, idle is probably just a hair off of that. What will happen is if there's no load on it, it'll run at the regular RPM at idle. I'm trying to do the best way to put it. It uses the idle circuit with the main circuit for both. But what will really show up is when it goes to go towards idle or to slow down when there's no load on it. So the throttle closes. Now the idle circuit's clogged. There's nothing there at all. So it just goes to stall right out, goes down to nothing. So what the governor does, takes over and gives it full throttle again. What will happen is it'll start doing a bounce off of that. It'll go idle. It'll go like down to nothing, rev up, down to nothing, rev up. Something just took a jump off the bench. Wasn't the fuel? No, we're good. So it'll hunt on you. It'll get that boom, boom. It'll do that. Sometimes all the time until you engage the auger and the drive where it's got a lot of load on it and it just kind of stays full throttle. But if not, what it'll do is, like, say the thing's set up to run at 3,600 RPM, which is fairly common. 3,600 RPM, which is probably about that much throttle. But it's still using the idle circuit, so it's running too lean, so it goes to stall out. What it does is it revs itself up. Now it's revving too fast, it closes the throttle back down again, but there's nothing there because the idle circuit is closed. So that's more common than not, and a lot of times the cleaner cannot get in there to go clean that part out, and it's very common to have to go replace the carburetors because of that. But again, we're not going to go jinx it yet. We're going to throw it in the cleaner and let it do its thing for a little while. We're not going to leave it in there terribly long. Like I said, I still have that seal that's down inside there, which if you go to try to take it out, you're going to ruin it, and I don't think I have one. So there's something called the main circuit and idle circuit, and then there's a jet, which allows a pre-programmed amount of fuel to get up in there. Is this that's threaded in there, which is also holding the bowl on, but you can see it's got holes in the side of it. Fuel is drawn up through that in the float ball and up through the center, and it's a metered amount of fuel to kind of go keep everything in check. I don't know what the best way to kind of put that is, but that's what its job is. It's the jet that meters how much fuel the carburetor gets overall, and then those 2 ports up there draw what they need depending on where the throttle is. Here's that ultrasonic cleaner I was talking about. Haven't shown this in a video in a while, huh? And we're just going to throw the bowl, the carb, and that main jet in there. And then on the side, it's got vibration and temperature. So we're going to run both of them up. That's vibration, and that's temperature. We're going to let them cook for a little bit. Eventually, that'll start pulsating around. See, it's starting to happen now. A lot of people put like water with some kind of soap in it. This is actually what you would use for carburetors. I'll show you. That's what's in there, because every single time I use it, 100 times it's in the comments what is in there. You try to, don't be stupid with how hot you're heating it up, but it seems to work fairly well. Plus, once in a while, I drain all the fluid out of the ultrasonic cleaner. It's got like a drain valve on the bottom of it. I kind of filter it out, run it through, not a coffee filter. Coffee filter is too thick. Like a paint filter, which got the screen on the bottom of it, and I get all the crap out of it. And then again, there's sludge that'll sit on the bottom of the ultrasonic cleaner, probably be about like 3/8 of an inch of just sludge. Clean it back out, throw it back in. Seems to work for quite a while. I didn't have a ton of fuel in it, which is good, but there is a little bit of water, right? I don't know if you can see it. You can see it down there? Just a drop or two, but that'll get you because the carburetor, it's too thick and the carburetor can't suck it up. That little dirt stain that's over there in the corner. Let's go And what do I want to do? I'm going to take an air gun. I'm going to blow it around the tank a little bit, make sure I kind of dry it out. And we could probably put that pull start cover back on after we make sure there's no nest material in it. And maybe we'll do a compression test. Yeah, try to blow that out. Blow out the fuel line. I'm gonna leave the cap off of that. I'm probably gonna let this sit overnight anyway, and any water that's in there kind of left behind or fuel, it should evaporate. What I'll do is I'll hit that one more time tomorrow, again with air, just to blow out if everything's evaporated, just if there's any dirt that's left behind. Spit out a little bit more water. Yeah, you can see it sitting in the center right there. See it? Yeah. We'll tip it to one side. It'll gather. Well, I'll bring us back later to this. You can see how little bits of water it just spit out. Actually, it says electric start on it, so we can leave that cover off and see what we get. Anything over 100 pounds is good. Sometimes they have a decompression valve in it, which can kind of give you a false reading, but we should be able to get up over 100. What's your guess? I'm going to say 125. I think the plug wire fired off a little bit of, just have to replay that. I think it lit off like some fumes coming out of the spark plug hole, the carburetor rather. Yeah, so 130, 125. No, I didn't cheat. Yeah, let's go try it one more time. Now what? What changed? We killed it. Make sure that's tight. That's weird. I'm going to dribble a little bit of oil in there. See if that number comes up. Again, more likely it's got a decompression valve in it. See if that number comes up. And that number comes up, it would be rings. If the number doesn't come up, then it's the valve. Let's go spin it a little bit. Like bump it. Give a hair more. Get that out of your eyes. And the carburetor's not affecting it because it's not on there. Sometimes that can choke it. Let's go see what we get. Yeah, staying the same. Decompression valve is like a, on the camshaft, there's a little lobe that attaches a lot of times to the exhaust valve. It holds the exhaust valve open a little bit longer and allows not the compression to come all the way up until it gets over a certain RPM, and then that little cam comes out of the way and allows it so that when you're trying to pull start it, that you're not, you know, ripping your arm out. That's the whole idea of it. But it usually doesn't shut off till it's about like running RPM, like 800 RPM or 700 RPM that it does it. Let's make sure we don't have a tight valve. We're going to go get this plastic cover out of our way, and we'll get the valve cover off, and we'll just kind of check valve clearances real quick, make sure we don't have something funky. If a valve is too tight, it'll also do the same thing, and it'll cause it not to build compression all the way up. Kind of wondering too if the decompression valve was stuck and it like popped free. Yeah, top screw might be a little tight to get to. Can you get it? Yeah, we need a short. Oh, you're a tricky one. Actually, do we need to take that muffler off anyway to weld it? That bracket's busted. Let's I don't know, maybe, maybe not. maybe causing myself more troubles. Go grab ourselves a little rubber mallet or rawhide. That hasn't been off ever neither. All right, we're in. That one feels like it actually has too much. We're gonna have to go find out what the valve clearances are. But I was looking for a tight valve, and I don't think that's the case. That feels like a little too much though. Let's see if I can look it up, see if I can find out what the valve clearance is. And it's adjustable in the center right there. It's got like a set screw. You loosen the outside and you run the center in and out. It runs the whole rocker closer or further. Pardon the background noise, the heat is on. Here's a picture of that camshaft I was talking about. Here's the two lows, that's the intake. I think that's the exhaust valve. And it's not a great picture, but this lever right here, that's that decompression valve that I was talking about. And it has like a little, I think it's that piece right there. When the camshaft is not spinning very fast, it interrupts I think it holds the cam open longer to lower the compression. Then once it starts to spin, it's got like counterweights on it that take it, I think it swings this way and allows that pad to go down and tuck out of the way and allow it not to interfere with the compression anymore. So let's go see what the valves are now. I'm going to run a screwdriver down inside there, try to find the piston at top dead center, which is right there. It's going to be that lucky. Let me go bring it around again. So you see the valves will move. So that's not the compression stroke. That's the compression stroke. Right there. So we want to check valve clearances right at top dead center. Let's go see what they are right now. So the exhaust is quite high. That is a 15 thousandths feeler gauge I'm putting in there. That should really be like, I'm getting kind of like different results, but it's that's pretty open too. That one's probably like 12, but it should be like 5 and 8. Let's go try a 13. Here's a 10. Yeah. So the intake is at like 10. You gotta watch it don't push too hard, because if the valve moves down, you're kind of defeating the purpose. You just have a little bit of drag on it. So we're at like 10, and what did I say before it was? Like 15 or 14? Here's a 14. Yeah, 14 sloppy. So that valve is got too much play in it. So we're gonna go crank down on that. I'm gonna go just make sure. We're good. So the center is what's adjustable. I think we have to go crack the outside loose. That looks like what, maybe a 14 or a 15? 15? Nope. 9/16, 5/8. What about 5/8? Made in USA. We're gonna go crack that loose, and then that center has an Allen wrench in it. We're gonna go tweak that. I have a feeling it's not metric. There we go. Let me go double check my numbers. My carburetor's been humming away for about an hour, 45 minutes. Go take that out of there. Let's see how that looks. We'll rinse that out with water. Got all the sludge that came out of that. Plus there's some sludge. Oh, we gotta go fishing. Where is my little friend? You get it? I hear it. Skipping up. We got parts from something else. What carburetor is missing that? Actually, that ran like crap, whatever that was. Alright. Let that cool off. I'll go in and get it. Yeah, you stick your fingers in there. There it is. There's all that sludge I'm telling you about that builds up in the bottom over time. Alright, so I was looking at valve adjustments on this and I came up with conflicting reports. And we're going to kind of maybe skirt in between the two. So, and other people had the same problem too, judging by the thread that I got onto. Some say it's 6,000 and 6,000. Some say it's 6,000 for the intake and 9 to 11 thousandths for the exhaust. So this is between 6 and 11 thousandths on the exhaust again. I'm not sure where the decompression valve kind of comes in. Sometimes that can get screwed up on which valve it's on and all. We're going to set it at 9 and see how we make out. It's still tighter than what it was. Again, it was really sloppy. So let's try to dial in 9 thou. Again, it's going to Allen wrench in the middle of it. I'm going to back the nut off. I'm going to run it till I get drag. Get in there. Run it till we get 9. It feels pretty good. Sometimes it does change when you crank down the nut. Let's go hold the center. Let's see what that does. That's maybe a hair too tight. Maybe not. Let's go do the other one. 6 is very popular valve clearance on a lot of different things. That's why I have the 6 out of that pack on this little hand tool. Let's go. What are we at now? Sloppy. Let's go crack that center loose. The center is what locks it down, not the outer. There we go. You go too hard, you're going to be out of whack because you're actually pushing the valve down. So let's lock that one there. Yeah, man. That one's a little too loose. I got to tweak them a little. In the hole. So a lot of times when you go to tighten down whatever it uses for jam nut, in this case it's the center, it'll change a little because you're taking the play out of the threads. All right, that one feels pretty good. Let's go double check that one. Now that's sloppy. Why is that sloppy now? What changed? That's the 9. Yeah. Because it's not tight, that's why. That's good. Too loose. I'm going to play with this. I'm going to play with my tool until I dial that in. seat it and we'll come back. Go right there. There we go. All right, that one feels good. That one feels good. All right, good enough. Let's go get that little metal flake off of there. I'm gonna go pop that valve cover back on there, keep the crap out of it, and we'll jump on to something else. So I went to go get that muffler off of there, and that is not happening, not without breaking stuff. I put the spark plug back in so that that hole's not open, and I was able to separate that bracket that was up there. Let's go wire wheel, clean some of that surface up there, bring the welder over, and see if we can buzz that back together on the machine. But I think a wise decision before we do that is to get rid of the open gas that is sitting. I just want to show the separation. Here's after it sat a while. There's that water sitting on the bottom of it. And what happens is the jet can't suck up like that. That'll go to the lowest point, and that's where the jet is sitting. It tries sucking that up, and it can't work. A lot of times a machine will run and die. What it's doing is it runs, it tries to drop that water, and it can't. The machine stalls out. The water kind of pulls away a little bit. It's able to suck gas up again until a couple of seconds later, and it does it all over again. So, gas cap's back on too. And a little for the other side. Good. Let's see if I can get on the east side of the vice grip, and then we'll get rid of the vice grips. Try that again. Might have welded the vice grips to it. Let's go see what happens. Yeah, we'll get it off there. There you go. Rubbing is racing. Let's hopefully get a good ground. Let's see if that'll do it. I'm going to build up a puddle around it. Just because it failed once before, that's all. It already cracked there. You have to grind it down a little bit, whatever. However the two pieces screwed together before, might have to just kind of put a dimple in the upper piece. What's your thoughts on doing another compression test? You want to see if we got a difference from adjusting those valves? When we get that plug back out of there, we'll put that compression test gauge back in her and spin her around. That's warm. Ask me how I know. Again, there's no carburetor on it, so it shouldn't starve for air. Yeah, my guess is that decompression valve is now working, and it wasn't before. Again, that's just a guess. We're gonna find out, I guess. Let's go put that carburetor back together. We'll start buttoning some stuff up and see if we could fire it up and actually run it, and we'll have a better idea what's going on. It's looking a little crunchy in there. Afterwards, if any of that's loose. Yeah. Sometimes the aluminum gets just stained. I've already blown that out every which way. So the biggest thing is going to be a bowl gasket on a carburetor that has a primer. If the bowl has an air leak anywhere in it, the primer will not work. So I do believe we have a new one here in our stash. And because what it does, when you push the primer bulb in, it comes down a hose, pushes air into here. This is all intents and purposes, we'll call it a closed chamber. And the only place it has to go pushes fuel up through the center of the carb and just injects raw fuel into the center, just to get it to start when it's cold. So a bowl gasket is definitely a need, or else the air is just going to leak right out wherever that that break is that's in it. All right, I'm going to throw this back together real quick. I've done this 9,000 times before. I think you get the idea. There's that two pieces going back together. Of course, it's got the weld underneath it, and it's missing a screw. So we're going to just go get ourselves a big old fat self-tapper, find our hole, and make it fit. Tight now. And button all the covers up. I'm trying to chase things. Let's go see if we got enough fuel line left. I'm going to go cut it right above that split. Should. Fuel line itself seems pretty good, so I'm not going to change it. It's kind of like a preformed line. It's got some bends in it. And let's go grab some pliers. I think we're almost to the point we could put some fuel in it and see if it pisses out. And we could probably, the cover has the primer bulb on it. I wonder if we can possibly leave that to the side. Let's go trim that in here. You might be able to see this, the fuel squirt into it. Let's go get some gas and dump it in the tank. Alright, we got her filled up. I don't see anything pissing out of it. Let's go hit the primer bulb a couple of times and see if we get that fuel coming up. Yep. See it pissing into it? So that's how the primer works. It's got kind of like a closed chamber. You're pumping air into the bottom of it. The fuel has no place to go. It pushes down and in turn goes up through the center and deposits it in just raw fuel to the center to give it a bit of a prime shot. Alright, let's give it a shot. See if she starts up. Parts come flying out of it. Takes off out of the bench, eats the cabinet in front of it. You'll give it a choke. See how it idles. It has an idle circuit, so that's good. You'll let it run for a second. go slow enough where it'll die. There you go. I don't have the kill switch hooked up. So actually we do. We had it right over there. Good. It's got a little bit of heat in it now. Let's go get the oil draining out of it. Yeah, hopefully no little metal bits come out. Yeah. Here you get bicycle. The whole thing's turning. It's common. Throw some vice grips on the shaft. Probably its first oil change. Ever. Yeah, definitely been a day or two. Oh, it was cruddy. But that's why I want to kind of run it just for a second, just so that it all the crap will settle to the bottom, if it sits long enough. So kind of want to run a little bit and let it get, what's a good definition for it? Help me. I'm lost. Make up a word. I don't see much in the way of metal. Sometimes you'll see like a little puddle, like a color difference in it. I see a little bit right there, and it'll be like the particulates that are in it. Reconstituted, reconstituted dirt. We're gonna go with that. Seems like it should have been more than that in there. We'll let it set for a little bit. I already got leaning back too, so I think all the wetness around here, this plug was just on the loose side. I think it was just slowly pissing out. It's probably why it's got a little on the low side for oil too. Sometimes they have an O-ring on it. I don't see one on there. And sometimes there's a fill on both sides. They'll have one on each side. Let's go check the other one real quick if there is one. But we'll just give her a little bit more. Did I have that off earlier? I don't remember. Yeah, that one's loose too. I think both of them were loose. No O-rings. You can't see, can you? I'm not even looking at it. Yeah, I think we just kind of popped that one off. Alright, we'll crank down on those pretty good and rinse some of that dirt off of there while it's draining. Kind of clean it up. Maybe take an air gun too and blow some of that rubber dust out of there, and we'll start looking into the dry part of it in the front. It all seems like it's functioning. Just button up all the plastics. That wants to go back on about as easy as it came off. Let's go give it a quick. Man, that's tight. There it goes. I just push the choke plate out of the bottom of the carburetor. It's getting the good stuff. Because it's all I got. Should get, I think it's 1030 it's supposed to get. I got 530 synthetic. Run the thicker oil because it usually runs during the winter time. In the winter time, the oil thickens up, so thin oil. So like I said in the beginning, the belts are specialty belts. You just can't take a regular belt and throw them on there. You can, and there is an adjustment on the tension on the auger side. And this one seems like it's got fairly good tension on it. Let's go, I got the lever on it right now with the clamp. Let's go release that. It has a spring. I'll show you. So it's got the rod comes down, got this rod right here, and then there's a spring, which is kind of like a over travel. So that's belt engaged, and then you can see how much stretch is that on that. Also looks like somebody may have been in there adjusting it. And it looks like it's not up against the stop. But the idler or tensioner has a slot on it too. I'm not sure if it's showing up, and that's already in. So somebody already adjusted it a little bit on the inside. So there's that, and then that's full tension. That belt, I'm gonna probably have to go order one, but it should function for us for now. I can see it breaking up on the other side a little bit. And again, like I said, the tensioner is already all the way in, so it's already been adjusted on. Let's go pop you on the stand. Let's go check out those idler pulleys. So we're gonna go pull them off the belt, and we're just gonna give them a spin and listen to them. That one seems okay. This one's constant. see the best way to go do that one. I have to get a big screwdriver behind it and lift. Here we go. The belt's dragging up a little bit, but I'm just listening for growling in the bearing. And that one seems fine too. The bottom, like I said earlier, when you're pushing on the belt, if that's more of a bushing than a bearing, the one that's going that direction. So when you put tension on that, the bushing will get plenty. It'll kind of like, if you could see that bottom pulley lifting up and dropping down, then you know you got a problem. This one generally, there's not much work being done to drive the wheels, so that generally does not have much of an issue as far as the drive is concerned. That wheel tilts anyway, the idler, the drive disc rocks down and touches and does not touch. That makes sense? Touches and does not. It engages and disengages on that surface of that right there. Let's go take a peek under there. I don't think there's anything up here we need to address that we can't address. And you know, getting a new belt on it's not that big of a deal when the belt comes in. Generally, you take the top 2 screws out and the top 2 screws out on each side, and the whole machine will split. It'll rock open. Tension will come off the belt, and there'll be a gap in between that you're able to get the belt out of that system that's in there. Most machines are like that. Sometimes you can have a pulley. You'll take the bolts out of the pulley, and the 2 halves of the pulley will come apart, and you can put a belt through it and then put it back on. Not sure what kind of view you got. So again, here's that pulley that we were looking at, and for the drive part of it, and it spins this disc, and pretty much spins it all the time. And this is a drive disc that goes out to the axles. It's got a chain and sprocket on that side with a gear reduction, and a chain and sprocket on this side going up to drive the axle of the wheels. And you can see how that spins if I go to spin the wheels. So that's in top gear right now. The closer to the center this disc is, here, I'll shift it. So that was in top gear. So now it's in like first gear. You can see how close to the center of, because the say feet per minute in the center is slower than it is on the outside. So this is walking speed, or like crawling speed, I should say, and this would be walking speed the further it is out here. Now to get reverse, what you do is this wheel goes to the other side and it spins the axle the other direction. And that would be going down like that. So now you can see it's on the other side of the disc, and it's going to spin the disc the other way now, give us reverse. It actually has 2 speeds, but essentially it's just picking 2 spots on that disc. I'm going to take a little bit of time, probably a little bit of brake clean or something, and I'm going to go and just kind of clean all the rubber crap off of that. A little Scotch-Brite should do it, but you'll get the idea. I'm going to just take it and get rid of all that excess rubber that's built up on there. And again, that's all burned off from the disc. So at some point, generally when the discs when the discs are newer, it's more of a taper coming down. It's like a V coming down. You can see this one's getting fairly flat. But as long as it still drives okay, like you go to put it in like, say, first or second gear, and you can hold back on the handlebars and it spins the tires, and it still has enough snot to do what it needs to do. Don't worry about it if it's out here. If it's out here, this is more for just transporting the machine. You would never really be blowing snow with a disc all the way on that outside edge. Again, it's more for just like you're done at the end of the driveway and you're going back to the garage, you put it in top gear and it just kind of, you know, moves itself very quickly down the line. All right, let me go clean that up. There we go, that looks better. Let's hit the lever that engages it, which is that, you can see that disc is moving towards us. And I got plenty of bite on the drive disc, so no adjustment needed there. The one thing it does need a little bit of love though, you can see the rust on the shaft right here. I'm gonna put a light coating of grease on that, but I don't want to go much because I don't want anything to fling off of here onto here. This surface needs to be dry. Once you get oil on here, it's screwed. The transmission is not going to work. It doesn't need much. Give her a little. And we'll slide that disc over the other side and we'll hit the other side. Just enough to wet it. Like I said, you don't want it globbed on there. Chains look okay. Again, the same thing, you got to be kind of cautious that you don't overdo it. And you don't want the chains flinging. Like on a motorcycle, you don't care. You know, although you're not oil on the back tire, but you can go a little bit more vigorous. But on this, we're just going to kind of give it just enough to wet its whistle. Yeah, the chains look pretty good. I'm going to leave them alone because, again, I don't want to contaminate that drive disc. Something we talked about was the play that's in the axle. You see all that in there. And that what happens is, here's you see the rust that's on the axle. Well, when the machine sits over the winter time, the summertime rather, and when you go to use it, rust forms and then you run it, it eats the plastic. This is just fluid film, like an undercoating. I'm going to go just shoot some of that in there. You can see how far the other side's moving. I may have to put that on the agenda. We'll see. As long as it doesn't skip a tooth chain, but look at all the play that's in there. So again, I'm going to go grab that one, probably from the outside of the wheel, because the sprocket's in the way. As far as the drivetrain too, we're talking about shear pins up on the auger. That's a shear pin too. I don't know if that's a bolt that somebody put in there or if that's an actual shear pin. Just the end of it looks a little weird and suspect, like it was going around and hitting in top gear. That was hitting that pulley right there. Yeah. See that? I think somebody put that bolt in there. I'm going to take a whiz wheel. I'm going to go cut the rest of that head off of there. But that was clunking around into that thing. Either that or somebody has the linkage too far adjusted. That looks right. Hey, I got an idea. Yeah, I'm going to take a whiz wheel. I'm going to go cut some of that off of there. It's rare that you would break this too. You'd really have to kind of screw it up. The front, it happens very popular, but drivetrain, not so much. You could also swap bushings from side to side is the other thing too. Help that slide out so the chain doesn't want to skip. Might be okay for now. Let's get rid of that mouse nest. It's down in there. Give that a bath. So those are the shoes, skids, skis, whatever you want to call them. And what's nice about these is as they wear out, you have the capacity of having another one on top, you can flip the whole thing over. But, you think the chances are that's going to crack loose? I'm not giving it a very good chance. I'm giving it pretty much 0. But let's go throw a wrench on it. Yeah, they're going to snap. So let's go throw some heat on those. And see if we have a little bit better chance at it. And it's not like you can put a wrench on the other side of them. What are they called? Stove bolt? Something like that. Might have to wait till it's red, but let's give it a shot. Sometimes the whole thing spins too. Or you get halfway out and it starts to spin because it's keyed. Yeah. We're going to go for it on this one. I'm trying to pull outward on it because it's got like a square shank on the other side. And if you were to push in, then the whole thing would spin on you. And no, I'm not going to grab that with my fingers. All right, let's go tap that out of there. show you what I'm talking about. So that looks like that. You see the little square shank on top of it? And if you were to let it fall in, it'll just strip itself out. So I'm going to do that and do that to the other one. Hit them with a wire wheel so they go back together, put a little bit of grease on them because they are adjustable. I'll get into that after I get it apart. We'll go through this one side, the other side I'll do off camera. I'm going to throw a little bit of grease on these. I cleaned these off on a wire wheel after I threw them in water to cool them off. And what was on there was jam nuts. That's what was kind of oozing out of the center was like the plastic that was still on them. Keeps them from backing off. So we're just going to flip that over. And again, they're adjustable depending on what surface you're going to use it on. You know, a nice clean paved driveway, you can go right down to where you're scraping on the bottom. But if you have like an older driveway that's breaking up, or a gravel driveway, you would run them like that. You leave like an inch or two of snow behind so you're not picking up all the rocks and chucking them. I'm going to leave this one probably here, so we're going to run this one. I'm probably going to leave like, maybe we'll set up for like a 1/4 inch or so. So I'm going to run these in just so it has some drag on it to hold it. All right, so both of them have been taken care of. Let's grab a shim. Is this going to be, oh, just right. This is an 1/8 inch. I'm going to flip it up and let that blade on the back touch that. And then on each side, I'm going to take them, and just tap those shoes down so that they touch the ground. And that'll be the gap that is left behind when we're done. So we're just going to loosen them up. I'll tap both sides down, tighten them up, and that'll lead how much gap is behind. Like if you have a really good paved driveway, you know, freshly paved driveway, you can go and have that edge scrape right on there and actually kind of get rid of the shoes. But if there's any kind of irregularities in your driveway, especially if you start to break it up, that thing will jam up on there so much, it's ridiculous. It'll, like every little bump that gets in the way, it'll just stop the machine dead, and you got to kind of, you know, lift up on it, get up over it, and keep going. So even if it's a decent driveway, I still like to keep at least that much. If it was like a gravel driveway, I'd go with like 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch piece of wood underneath there and really shim them up high, because it'll be spitting rocks out like crazy. That sounds like a plow, Yeah. We'll just lock them down. Same as the other side. Maybe we'll take a look at that that gearbox in the center real quick. Sometimes they have oil, sometimes they have grease in them. Either. It doesn't spin it's not working very hard. But let's go pull a plug on that, see if there's anything in it. I've seen them so wore down where the auger blades are touching. The back will wear down too. Alright, let's get that out of there. We'll shove like a Q-tip in there, see if we get any fluid coming out of that. Yeah, see if we get anything. Seems fairly wet. There's a gear right in front right here. Yeah, they're plowing outside good. Let's go down deep. I'm going to shoot some thick oil in there, like some gear oil in it. It probably has grease in it. Worst case, it may leak out here a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything. I'd rather have it more on the wet side than possibly being dry. Again, some have grease, most have grease in it, I should say, and some have oil in them. What's inside there, like I said, up top is a worm gear spinning around, and then here, bevel gear, I think it's called. So you can't take these and grab them and turn them. You know, the plate will move, but you can't turn them any further than that because, again, it's a worm gear that's in here. But the opposite's true. You could turn the worm gear and it will turn the bottom gear. It doesn't feed back the other direction. I think we saw earlier too, the way when it was running, it was a little bent. This shaft is a little bent. You can kind of see the gearbox moving around a little bit. Again, it happens to them. There we go. So whatever was in there was pretty full. And we didn't hurt anything. Alright. I think we don't really have too much more to do unless we get some parts. So somebody probably said, hey, it's got grease fittings on it. Why don't you put grease in it? So between the top and the bottom, the inner shaft and the outer, there is, we'll try to put grease in it. We'll see if it takes it. They are not spinning surfaces. The only time that they will spin if it breaks a shear pin. If not, they're kind of locked together. So but the grease does help keep the rust from building up in them. And that's really about it. It's not like it's a spot that spins against each other all the time. And if you get lucky, you see some grease kind of sticking out of the end of there. But I have a feeling they haven't been greased in a long time. I'm not going to go take them apart. I'm not going to go bother chasing that. I'm going to try throwing grease in the other end and hope for the best. But that's a nightmare in its own. The whole system has to come out of the middle and get the augers off each end and sand them, put them back together. They pretty much have a built-in shear pin, because you break the shear pin out. I don't think generally you would be able to move them. If they were free, you should be able to move them opposite of each other, and you can't. So this one's all locked up. I'm not going to get into that. The only downfall about that is if you ever did hit something really hard, you stand the chance of stripping out the gear in the middle. We'll try to throw some gear in there, some lube in there. Hey, what do you want? It was free. I'll hit that one too. All right, I went through and I function checked the chute, the rotation and all that stuff. Seems to be good. A little bit of lube here and there, but nothing really needed any kind of love as far as that's concerned. Let's go drop it on the ground and we'll check the drive out. And I'm gonna basically put it in gear. I'm gonna hold the machine back and I should be able to spin the wheels, especially in the lower gears. Well, we know what an electric start. Let's go try it. It's a full start. We gotta run. We gotta run. Plow truck's out there pushing snow around, but I think we can go find something to go play with. Go give us some heavy stuff. All right. Well, it worked out pretty good. You see a couple of the things that I was talking about where I was trying to hit that heavy stuff that the snow was just plowed up on the bank. That was off pavement, so it was kind of like locking into the gravel and the dirt under the ground. So I had to kind of like lift up on it and let it go forward. But if your whole property was like that, that's where you would kind of lift the whole setup up. Other than needing a drive belt and the 2 bushings for the wheels, even the wheels I might let go. Now that they're greased, they really shouldn't wear that much more, but I definitely need a drive belt. I think the thing was parked because, again, it's kind of come back to me with the conversation of 6 months ago, it was okay to start with the electric start, but if you had to shut it off or ran out of gas down the yard, you couldn't get it to pull start afterwards. And I think what was happening was the valve clearance got so large that the decompression valve wasn't working anymore. When we first did that compression test and the compression was really high, well, to try to pull start something through that would get you pretty good. So I have a feeling that was what it was, and it was kind of like on the verge of holding a valve open too long, not holding it open too long, holding the valve open too short. I don't know. You know what I'm getting at. The compression was greater than what it should be. That's the whole reason why the decompression valve is there, so that it makes it easier to pull over. And again, it just ended up being a valve adjustment on it. Everything else seems to be pretty good. I got to adjust the rotation of the chute. It goes very far one direction, but not far enough the other way. I think it's off a couple of teeth on the ratchet that's up on the top there. That is no big deal, but everything else seems to be okay. I think the oil leak was the plugs were a little on the loose side, so it was wet on both sides of it. Definitely need an oil change. Parts, what we put into it? We put an O-ring in, a bolt for the cover. We welded the exhaust bracket, and oil, of course. And was there anything else that we used? Not much. Just needed love, really. So this is a fairly good machine too. Like, this would probably cost you pretty close to 2 grand maybe on this machine. Yeah, maybe a little more now the way things are going, but again, needs some love. It's going to stay here. That's what his job is. There's a plow truck that plows the property, but as far as the walkways and stuff do need to be done with a snowblower, so this will be staying here for that purpose. All right, guys, with that, I'm going to go sign off. I thank y'all for hanging out with me. I got a couple other snow-related things, a little bit more fun than this, to go work on, as long as the weather stays wintry. And we'll play with those in the near future. But for this one, we're done. All right, guys, later.